It usually happens when I'm visiting any church in the country and I run into a Filipino Adventist who's over the age of 50 or 60 who was in the Philippines. And of course, there's that initial, oh, are you Filipino? And like we make friends. And so what's your family name? Well, and I tell them, you know, I'm an Alincid. That was the family that my mother's family name. Like, oh my goodness, are you the descendant of my great-grandfather? And immediately, yes. And I don't think I've met a Filipino yet who's here in the States, who's within this age bracket that didn't know who my great-grandfather was.
Okay, like I know from what stories I've heard about my grandfather, being an evangelist or a minister back then, you gave up a lot. So from what I hear, my grandfather was gone a lot because he had several churches he had to visit, and he would just go from one to the other. And then if he had evangelism series, he'd be gone for long periods of time. So you give a lot of your family life. And then with Justin, because he's able to do it digitally, he actually gets to include his family. So he'll come down here and visit us, which is nice, which is still considered business. He can take his wife and his dog and not have to miss them. So I think those are big positives. Like when Justin first started the digital world, not a lot of people thought that it was gonna really be something big. So he had to actually fight that. So you always will come across people that are negative, and that's just human nature.
I like these pants. Those are good.
Well, I knew very early on that Justin did not listen to anyone in particular, and when he wanted to do something, when he had his mind set to it, nothing would stop him. I know you're laughing because you could see it in him. So even as a child, but I remember very clearly, I was talking to Emily about this the other day, very, very clearly when he was probably about 3. He was, like good Filipino parents, sit here and sing a song so that you could sing it to the grandparents or whatever. And he was singing a song. And I remember in my head, God has a special plan for you. Let me tell you the background of Justin. Justin is what I call my challenging child. He challenged everything that that anyone would put in front of him. He was ADD, ADHD. He was bouncing off the walls, very active. I had to be very creative in trying to disperse his hyperactivity. And so kids like that get the bum rap. People don't understand that you need to divert their attention another way. And so some people weren't looking at him very highly, even family members. But I remember when he was singing, I think he was singing the song, Zacchaeus was a wee little man. I think I have it on video. Someone has it on video. And I remember that, you know, during that day someone had said something negative about him, but I was watching him sing and I said, and that came into my head, just go with it, continue guiding him because God's got something special for him. I just didn't know what it was. And I just had to go with it. I didn't have that with his younger siblings, just him. So the voice spoke to me very clearly. My grandfather wanted my dad to be a pastor, so it skipped a generation. Skipped a generation. It skipped 2 generations. Wait, Dad, it skipped 2 generations.
Yeah.
It skipped 2 generations.
I've been here in America for 50 years. Here, there's no comparison. Very different, very different. Oh, there, you meet these people over and over. Whenever there are some special meetings, they're usually there and they remember you. The fellowship is much deeper. Most of his meetings were very, very well attended, you know. It's usually he puts up a tent. It's a tent effort setting. So it was fun. The topics, you know, runs from, I don't know how the sequence goes, but creation, Daniel and Revelation and the Sabbath and the basic beliefs. In the Philippines, it was called the South Central Mission. And there are several provinces, maybe 5 or 6 provinces in that mission. Usually you're given territories, like usually given in an area called a province. So you're in charge for all of that province, and you move from one town to another. Because after that, church building follows. Because normally there are no Adventists in the area, so we do a lot of church building. It will be maybe 3 weeks every night. That's every night, maybe even 4. And during daytime, sometimes I'll tag along and visit. Go and visit with him, So, very rarely, That is basically for out of curiosity on my side. Nothing more. And a lot of times I'm by myself, living with someone else, or so very little interaction with my dad because of the type of work, and at that time, he would have 3, maybe even 4 evangelistic meetings a year. So, and it's in different places. So, and we are usually either left at home with my mom, or we fend for ourselves. And when you're in that position, you're looked up to by these members, as if you are really, actually, God as far as they're concerned, because, He teaches them lessons and everything. And it's different at that time. Believers then were really down to earth. That's why, I really am very proud of him. He is, for someone who really did not have any formal education, he knows a lot about Adventism.
I've always known that ministry comes at a cost. I see that in my own life. I see that in the lives of many of my friends who are in ministry. But to hear my big dad say, didn't really know his parents, doesn't really have a lot of memories outside of evangelism proper. I don't know, that hit in a different way. When I started doing ministry, I felt like I was the only one doing it, which is kind of weird, right? Because my mom teaches at an academy, the same academy that I went through, kindergarten through 12th grade. She still teaches there today. And so she's been working for the church for forever. And yet, for some reason in my mind, I felt like I was the only one doing ministry. It didn't even click that my great-grandfather had this rich history of what he had done. I felt like I was a lone ranger setting out on a different path. In the majority of Asian cultures, at least in the one that I grew up with, it felt like you had to be a doctor. It felt like you had, for me in particular, I had to be a dentist because my dad's a dentist. And I just never pictured my life being happy had I done that. And so there was this inward sense, and I don't think my parents ever explicitly communicated this, nor would they even agree with this idea, but I felt like I was going against the grain stepping into ministry. I felt like I was doing something that I wasn't supposed to. So no, I don't think I ever really connected the dots between my life and what he had done. Not until many years later. So my earliest years of ministry were doing literature evangelism, Bible work, and public evangelism. And I think it's about 10 years of collective experience with this, which means that I've knocked on over 100,000 doors. I preached evangelistic series all over the country, internationally at times. I got really used to life on the road. It got to the point where even when I was actually at home, I would sleep on the floor because I was more comfortable on the floor because of all the floors I had slept on in all the churches across the country as a coal porter. Doesn't work so well now that I'm married and my wife likes soft mattresses. So I'm always like, no, let's just sleep on a hard mattress or sleep on the floor. I don't know. It's just I was used to life on the road, used to life on the go. This mentality that we're just passing through. And like the song, like this world's not my home. It really felt like that was true. So I did a lot of that kind of ministry. And I don't know how I found a woman who was willing to put up with all that. Our first year of marriage, I spent 167 days out of the house traveling for ministry. And that was really hard. So when I hear about how my grandparents, like how that impacted their childhood even, how that impacted my parents, and I don't know, I guess I'm proud of the legacy. I got to go to the Philippines a couple of years ago and stand in the building that my family helped in more ways than one kind of lift up. And there was a sense of pride there. And so I am very proud of our legacy. But when I think about the cost that was associated with this legacy, I wish there was a different way. I wish that it didn't have to come at the expense of family. Doing digital ministry is awesome. It's good in every which way that I still believe that doing something like literature evangelism or public evangelism is good. You have the ability to reach large groups of people. But the difference now is I don't have to actually pour in blood, sweat, and tears. I don't actually have to carry a 30-pound bag of books running around in the 95-degree, 100-degree heat for 8 hours a day. So there's a convenience in that. So I'm really grateful for that piece. And I think there's something to be said of being able to do it with people that you love. Being able to partner in this ministry with my mom, with my wife, with friends. And there's something about being out there on the internet that I think gets you outside of the bubble that's so easy to exist within when you're an Adventist, because you're reaching everyday people now. But I think over the years, I've come to realize that God is much bigger than Adventism. Certainly God is in the Adventist Church, I believe that. But I also believe that God's elsewhere. And the real goal of the true evangelist is to win people to Jesus. And maybe that means to bring them into the Adventist Church. But I think I've become more comfortable over the years with the idea that maybe it's not. If I can bring people to Jesus, but I don't succeed in bringing them to the Adventist Church, I might have been disappointed at earlier stages of my life. But now I think that's still a win. That's the best win that I could hope for, is to introduce people to Jesus.
So I feel super fortunate to be able to include my family into this project. Last year, my grandmother passed away, and in the months leading up to her death, I had thought on many occasions how it would have been such a good use of time to sit down with her, to interview her, to hear some of her stories, and to capture them forever, to pass on to my kids and their kids and their kids. I think what's super beautiful about having technology like we do today is that memories and stories can be captured permanently. And so being able to sit down with my grandfather, with my mother, and to be able to hear, where did we come from? Like quite literally, like how did we get here to the United States? How did we come to be? Like, what were some of the challenges growing up in the Philippines, maybe a part of the world, a specific community in the Philippines that I might not ever get to visit, to get that kind of insight into what life was like for them. Man, it's invaluable. And so I think something that, whether it's for a project like this or not, it's increased my curiosity about life. To hear stories from people that are part of my everyday experience, or maybe even to hear the stories of my cashier, as I'm buying coffee or pizza or whatever the case is. Every single one of them has a story to share. And so much of that is just at our fingertips, just waiting for one question in order for it to be unleashed. And I think about how many times I go throughout my relationships never having tapped into those. And so, yeah, I think that's something that's changed for me. I want to be more curious about people's lives. I want to be more curious about what have they experienced that changes the way that they see the world and how they see their role in it.